The spread of coronavirus is causing a host of legal issues, especially in the workplace. This piece in Vanity Fair does a pretty good job of explaining the situation. Quote, more and more stories have emerged of medical workers who've either been reprimanded or fired for speaking out about COVID-19 related concerns. For example, a Mississippi doctor filed a lawsuit alleging she was fired for a Facebook post appealing to the public for the N95 masks and baby monitors to observe coronavirus patients. And a Washington ER doctor claimed he was let go after he gave an interview about a lack of preparation and PPE. According to the Times, every major private hospital system in New York has sent memos in recent weeks ordering workers not to speak with the media, as have some public hospitals as well. My next guest, she has a client who says he was fired from his job working the front desk at a medical facility because he was in contact with infected people even though he tested negative. Civil rights attorney Lisa Bloom joins us now. And Lisa, your client, he was not given, I guess, the same proper PPE as other medical workers on the front lines, but through a course of events, he maintains he was pushed out the door because he might have come in contact with someone that was positive.
Well, that's right. He was a front desk worker. He asked for the PPE. It was being given to the doctors and nurses at his facility, but not to the lower level staff like him. He then was told that he had been exposed to the coronavirus via a patient. They sent him home. That's appropriate. We have no problem with that. But then the next day, they fired him. Completely inappropriate and just really unfair to workers. And I have a number of coronavirus related cases right now with people being fired either because they stood up for safety rights, they asked for PPE, they insisted on social distancing at work, and the employer just didn't like it and got rid of them, or because they were perceived to have coronavirus discrimination. And we have a message for employers. Workers' rights are still the law. People still have the right to a safe workplace and to be free from discrimination and harassment.
In the case of the front desk worker, it seems inexcusable. There's no rationale for terminating someone that came in contact with the virus, especially if they weren't given the proper PPE. But, you know, it's interesting, Lisa, I've had numerous ER doctors that, you know, obviously are in the ICU every day. And particularly a few weeks ago when PPE was at such a limited supply, they were conflicted because they understood that they sign up for this. It's not the optimum environment to be in. It wasn't the fault of hospitals in many cases that they didn't have the equipment and they had to reuse it in many cases, et cetera. And they understood the complaints of their coworkers, RNs, whoever it might be, who spoke publicly about the health concerns. But they also understood the hospital's perspective, where you can't have multiple people all going out, both frightening the patients and at the same time not administering, in effect, the oath they signed up for. Aren't these unprecedented times creating almost different standards in terms of what the frontline people can and can't do in the middle of a pandemic?
So I understand that perspective, and I salute all of the brave healthcare workers. But we did have time to gear up and to get the PPE. We've known about the coronavirus since January, when the World Health Organization sounded the alarm. We had the entire month of February to be gearing up, and a lot of people were saying at that time that we needed to do it. We had the first half of March where we were essentially sitting on our hands. And my perspective is, from the point of view of representing workers and fighting for workers, workers have an absolute right to workplace safety, not kind of, sorta, not when the employer gets around to it, not when we're not in the middle of a crisis, but an absolute right. And that's very important. And it's not just healthcare workers. I represent a woman who worked in a country club who was told by some of the members that they had been exposed to the coronavirus. She put a Facebook post up that she was concerned about that, and she got fired. And, you know, employers don't want people to talk about this, but people are allowed to state the facts. They are allowed to make truthful statements and, frankly, to warn other people. That's what she did. That's what a lot of workers are doing, and then they get fired for simply telling the truth.
I get it, and certainly no one's banging the drum louder than me about the failure of government going back to November, let alone in January and February, and not acting. But that's the government, not necessarily public hospitals here who are not for profit, and they have limited supplies, certainly not enough to meet the demand for the patient care. At the end of the day, they need everybody on the front lines here to save the patient, not just to look good from a PR perspective. you can't cry fire in a crowded theater. Is there an element of creating panic, even if it's reasonable, the concerns, at a time where everybody needs to pull in the same direction for the health of the patient?
Hear you. And again, the doctor who I represent in another case was very focused on patient care. But I think we can do all of the above. We can get the PPE to the doctors, we can focus on patient care, and we can allow people to speak out, again, truthfully about their concerns. Some communities do need to be notified that there is coronavirus in their midst. There's a number of states in this country that still don't have stay at home orders, where people are still going out in group gatherings and they think it's okay because they don't think the coronavirus exists where they are. So if people are saying, hey, listen, somebody was exposed, somebody is sick, this is a problem here, I think they're doing a public service and not causing panic.
And that seems like a good place to leave the conversation. Lisa Bloom, thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up on RFL.